Hey everybody, I'm Steve Ramirez and I'm a professor of psych and brain sciences at BU.
Hi everyone, I am Christina Cincotta. I'm an alum of Boston University and the Kilachand Honors College class of 2019.
Hi, I'm Francesca Davy-Falconi. I'm actually a current senior undergrad, so I'm KHC class of 2021, crazy to think about, and I'm majoring in philosophy and neuroscience.
Awesome. So one of the standout things for KHC students for me really has been in the past couple of years, just how interdisciplinary and broad people's projects really are. And they're very outside of the box. So Francesca, for instance, your project is about storytelling and the neuroscience of memory, and then using the latter to try to make the former more effective, which is exciting. Or Christine's project on integrating memory and psychiatric disorders and trying to even manipulate memories in the brain to alleviate symptoms associated with psychiatric disorders. And I've found that really exciting because it's felt like we've been, in a sense, like unleashed to think as outside of the box and as creatively as we want when it comes to these projects. And I think that for me, at least, one of the standouts of being able to do these kinds of, or be a part of these kinds of Keystone projects in general, is that they're pretty boundless when it comes to the creativity or the creative angle for these projects. And I think that it's actually made them that much more high risk, high reward in general too. And I've really been a fan of that for the past couple of years. But how about on your end, Christine?
Yeah, so for the Kilachand Honors College, when I was applying and interviewing, and the Keystone Project was, something that really drew me to the program. Before I arrived at BU, I didn't really have, a concept of research. And, if it wasn't for KHC, I don't know if I ever would have gotten involved with research. So that was something that was great, especially once I was a freshman. A lot of the upperclassmen in KHC, we got to hear about their projects, and they gave us some great advice on, how to get involved with the lab. I was majoring in neuro. And so they really told us that it was okay to just cold email PIs that you found their work interesting. And that's how I found Steve, and that's how I joined your lab. And so, yeah, the Keystone was a great experience overall to really get involved and really pursue projects that you found interesting. So that was a fun time.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that I came in to college undeclared, and that was very much never really a problem in KHC because there were just so many different avenues to explore. And for me, I ended up liking neuroscience quite a bit despite myself, because I hadn't had much of a STEM background, so I did have to do some catching up. But because the Keystone was there as an option, I was never really worried that I wouldn't be able to combine the things that I love, like storytelling and neuroscience. It was just a matter of what form it was going to take. So I think that I really valued that kind of support from the Honors College, and just the general innovation and the innovative spirit that comes with the Keystone.
Yeah, and to harp on that too, like some of the highlights, like for me, really have been that for any of the Keystone projects happening in my lab, for instance, it's forced me in the best way to kind of be a student again, which feels pretty refreshing because like I graduated BU in 2010, so despite being a professor now, most of these projects have really plucked me out of my comfort zone in the best way to actually learn about these like wildly different branches of knowledge that otherwise I might have been kind of too constrained of thinking strictly just neuro. And then most of these projects actually transcend that and actually do have, whether it's cultural relevance or societal impact in the works. And I think that having that kind of both outside the box mentality and then forcing myself to be a student again, alongside the students in the lab actually doing this Keystone, I think has been probably one of the most rewarding aspects of the project, because then I feel like we're undergoing that process of sort of learning and discovery simultaneously, which is, selfishly, it's exciting. I happen to really enjoy that part of science. So it's been great to be able to dive back into that as well. But yeah, how about on your guys' end, like in terms of highlights?
I think one of the highlights for me as a student was really, I could have joined a lab without KHC and gotten a lot of great experience building lab skills and learning different techniques. But a unique thing about KHC was learning the communication side of things. KHC is an interdisciplinary program, and so you're going to be taking classes throughout your entire undergrad with people who are not, in your major whatsoever. So you're going to have classes with people who majored in international relations or are in College of Fine Arts. And so one of my favorite things was, while working on my project and gaining those neuro skills, also understanding how I can talk about my research and explain things like optogenetics and, how do we tag cells and manipulate memories using light to my friends who, would never have stepped foot in a neuroscience lab. And that's one of my favorite about the program.
I was actually designing my Keystone when the world fell apart last spring, and I was in KHC 450, which is the class in which they kind of help you design your Keystone and you do your proposal and you find your advisor. So for the first solid 2 months, everyone was on track, business as usual. And then in March, we all realized we were going to have to go through some redesigning processes. And that for me, the degree of support that I received from Kilachand in my project really helped me kind of come to the conclusion that I was going to take inspiration from the COVID-19 pandemic and use it to kind of provide the structure for my Keystone. So my Keystone centers on recalling a traumatic COVID-19 related memory. And then I'm measuring, heart rate and skin conductance, and then people retell it as a story. And then I'm seeing if those measurements change. So basically if it changes your physiological stress level. And so all of these things kind of came together in, I guess, a perfect storm, although obviously it's been a rough time for everyone. But I think that without the support of Kilachand, I'm not sure if it would have been able to come about, because once again, it was really a matter of we're going to work with you despite global circumstances. So I think that was one of the highlights of my Keystone experience.
Yeah, great. And I guess to end, I mean, one of the things that KHC, I guess, means to me in general is like this idea that not just thinking big, but this idea that there is that level of support and that the students are very, both intellectually flexible when it comes to engaging these ideas, but also like super proactive. So that like both of your cases are perfect examples here of being proactive in otherwise very different circumstances in terms of the state of the world, and yet still making science work and still making projects work, or still like iterating on your ideas to kind of blend into the background of the world as it's changing day in and day out. So I think that level of breadth when it comes to doing a Keystone, for example, as well as being super proactive to like troubleshoot and problem solve in real time, I think is a pretty integral skill for anyone to have. And I think that the Kilachand Honors College does pretty exceptionally well, as evidenced in the students, right?
For sure, yeah. Like even today, I've graduated a year and a half ago, and I still talk about my Keystone project. Right now, I'm interviewing for PhD programs in neuroscience, and with the support of Kilachand and BU and Steve, I was able to take my project. I presented at international conferences. I've published it in a peer-reviewed journal. So the Keystone was, really impactful experience for my career.
Yeah, same on my end. I'm kind of hoping to take what I'm doing this year and expand upon it in the future, maybe incorporate some neuroimaging. And so it really is, the Keystone doesn't just end when you graduate. It's kind of work that you can continue to draw upon and showcase. And it's a really nice kind of stamp of honor after your 4 long years at college. It's been a really great experience despite the circumstances for me.
Agreed. Yeah, and I guess we'll end with that positive note that despite circumstances in the world, there's a lot of exciting work that's happening through these Keystones and a lot of exciting work that Kilachand students are doing, and it's been pretty awesome to be able to be a part of that in the lab too. So I think it's again, despite the state of the world, it's amazing that this kind of work can still happen, and in that having it happen through like Kilachand and through Kilachand students has been pretty amazing for the past couple of years. So I think we'll end on that positive note.